AITA for refusing to let my sister stay with me after she got married and demanded I adjust my lifestyle for her husband. I, 28F, have always been the type to value my independence. I grew up in a pretty large family, so having my own space always felt like a bit of a fantasy. Sharing a room, juggling noise, and accommodating other people's needs were just a part of life. As soon as I was able, I moved out, eventually found a job I loved, and settled into my 2-bedroom apartment. It isn't luxurious or anything, but it's mine, and I put a lot of care into making it a place where I feel comfortable and happy. I wouldn't call myself a neat freak, but I definitely value organization and a calm, quiet environment. I live alone, and I honestly adore it. My apartment has this minimalist, peaceful vibe that I've cultivated over the years. I like the idea of having control over my surroundings, and I tend to do little things to make the space feel more personal. One of my rooms is technically a guest room, but I mostly use it as a hobby space. I'll read, paint, listen to music, or just unwind there after work. It's like a mini sanctuary where I can escape, and the setup has always worked perfectly for me. Recently, though, my life has gotten a bit more complicated thanks to my older sister, 30F. She just got married a month ago to her husband, 31M. Let's call them Sarah and John. I was happy for Sarah. She'd been waiting for this moment for a long time. They met, fell in love, and had this whirlwind romance that led to marriage in less than a year. It all happened so fast that I never really got a chance to know John. We've met maybe twice, once at their engagement, and then briefly on their wedding day. He seems fine, kind of quiet, maybe a little particular about things, but overall he seemed like a decent guy. After the honeymoon phase, Sarah started reaching out to me with the idea of visiting. At first, I thought she just wanted a weekend to catch up, but then she clarified. She and John wanted to stay for a few weeks. They live about 3 hours away from me, so I figured maybe they just wanted a change of scenery. I love my sister, and I wouldn't normally have a problem with her visiting for a bit, so I said yes. But then the real kicker came. Sarah called me again, and her tone was different. Not hesitant, exactly, but more managerial. She started listing things that I would need to adjust to make the place comfortable for John. I initially thought she meant practical things like making space for their luggage or maybe putting fresh sheets on the bed. But, oh no, she had way more specific ideas in mind. Here's what she said, and it felt like a total laundry list of demands. 1. Quiet hours. Sarah told me that John works from home, so he needs an extremely quiet environment. They want me to observe quiet hours from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day. That meant no music, no phone calls on speaker, and ideally, no hosting friends during the day. She said John gets distracted easily and needs peace to focus. I'm someone who often plays soft music while I work or clean, and I sometimes have friends over for coffee or just to hang out. This quiet hours rule would completely shift my whole day. 2. Full access to the guest room. The guest room is usually my little hideaway. I've got art supplies, books, and other things I use to unwind. But apparently, John needs a private space to take his work calls. So Sarah asked if I'd clear it out entirely to make it a proper office for him. When I asked why he couldn't just work in the living room, she said he finds open spaces distracting. She didn't say what I should do with all my stuff, just that I needed to find a temporary storage solution. 3. No cooking strong-smelling foods. Now, I'm not a chef by any means, but I do enjoy cooking a few things that have strong flavors, like curries or stir-fries with garlic. Sarah informed me that John has sensitive taste buds and that the smell of certain foods might bother him. So she asked if I could avoid cooking anything too fragrant, just to be considerate. For making space for their relationship, this part really rubbed me the wrong way. Sarah explained that she and John need quality time in the evenings. She suggested I be mindful about noise after dinner because they need quiet evenings to connect. She also implied that I shouldn't have friends over in the evening because it could intrude on their couple time. Keep in mind, this is my own home, and I'd be expected to tiptoe around because they want to be alone. When Sarah finished talking, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. She sounded so nonchalant, as if it were totally reasonable to ask me to rearrange my entire lifestyle for them. She framed it as a few small adjustments, but to me, it felt like they'd be taking over my entire space. I'd basically have to walk on eggshells in my own home. I barely even know John, yet I'd be bending over backward to accommodate him. I tried to explain to Sarah that I wasn't comfortable with all these changes. I told her I'd be happy to let them stay if they could compromise a bit. Maybe he could work from the living room instead of the guest room, or maybe they could just stay for a weekend instead of multiple weeks. But she immediately got defensive and accused me of being selfish. You know, family is supposed to help each other, she said. This is only for a few weeks, and it's not like we're asking for the world. When I said that it actually felt like they were asking for a lot, she got mad. She went on a rant about how John is her husband now, and that by extension, he's family, so I should want to help him feel at home. She tried to make me feel guilty for not welcoming him into my life. But to me, it wasn't about not wanting to welcome him. It was about maintaining some boundaries and not letting them completely disrupt my space. The call ended on a sour note. and now I'm left feeling guilty. Maybe I am being too rigid. Maybe I should be more accommodating, given that it's only temporary. But the thing is, I don't want to resent them. I don't want to wake up every morning feeling anxious because I have to tiptoe around my own home for a guy I barely know. I'm scared that if I give in to all her demands, I'll end up feeling so frustrated and uncomfortable that I'll resent them both by the time they leave. It's also making me question how well I really know my sister. She's always been a bit headstrong, but this level of entitlement feels new. I can't tell if it's her new marriage talking or if this is just who she is now. I even wondered if John was putting pressure on her to make these demands, but she seemed so adamant, like she genuinely thought I owed them these accommodations as family. Since our argument, she's barely spoken to me. She's left a few passive-aggressive texts. Things like, I guess we'll just have to figure something else out, since it's too much to ask you, or I thought you'd be more supportive as a sister. She's even implied that if I can't make these accommodations, she might not bother visiting at all. I don't want to lose my relationship with her, but I also don't think it's fair for her to make these demands and expect me to say yes without hesitation. And the guilt has been gnawing at me ever since. Am I being selfish? Should I just put up with it for the sake of family? I genuinely don't know. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister and her husband stay under these conditions? Or should I be more willing to compromise?